Hello everybody, in this screencast we're going to talk about how can you transition from one view controller to another view controller. So in order to perform that, one approach is to use a concept called segues. And segues enable us to transition from one view controller to the other. And segues are triggered with some event or something is going to trigger a segue. And you will see that it's very straightforward to do a segue. So basically, we have one view controller here, as you can see, which is the default when you start the project. And you can see this small arrow to its left. It's indicating that this is the initial view controller. This is the view controller that's going to run at the beginning. Okay, so now basically, I need just to add a button to it. And when I click that button, I want to transition to another view controller. So how do I do that? So I use a button. Here's my button. Okay. Just give it some constraints so that it centers correctly. And I'll say go to next view controller. I'll just say go to next view controller. Okay. Now let's just say we change the background of this view controller so that we can identify which one is it. So I'll go here, change its background. So we'll click on the view, and then the background color will make it say red. Okay, so then I have a view controller here that is red. When you click on the button, I want to go to another view controller. So how do I do that? It's also very straightforward. So what I'll do is let me add another view controller. All right, here it is, a view controller. And we make the other view controller's background color, for example, let's make it yellow. All right, here it is. So it's yellow. Now I want to transition from, when I click this button, I want to transition from this view controller, from the red to the yellow. It's very straightforward. All what you do, you click on the button, press Control, and keep pressing Control, and then you drag from here to here, and then you press on Show. Okay, there are different kinds of segues. For the time being, let's use the simplest one, which is called Show. Okay, so it's probably going, this is to indicate that it's a segue. You'll see now this is a segue, indicating that if you click on the segue, it shows you what triggers that segue. Clicking on the button will trigger the segue, which is going to show the next view controller. So now when you run this, you'll see we didn't write any code yet. Basically, the app is going to work. So now we are here in the red view controller. When you click on go to next, boom, it shows the yellow one. Now I want to go back. How do I go back? I need to close this one. So how do I close this one? Let's look at it in a little bit. But you could see this is your first segue. We created our first segue, and that segue is associated with clicking the button. Now, what if I would like to close the yellow one, right? So I already opened one. The red one is behind the yellow one now. I want to close the yellow one to go back. Okay, so to do that, say we add a button in the yellow one that will enable us to close it. We'll add a button here, for example, and let's say close. Right, the problem is that this button now needs to be associated to some code. Yes, this button needs to be associated with some code, and this view controller is not associated with any class. You see, the red one is associated with view controller, which is this file, right? While the yellow one is not associated with anything yet, right? The yellow view controller, if you click here, is just the default class. So we need to create a class. We create a new file, and we pick the Cocoa Touch class. Next, and then it's of type UI view controller, and let's call it view controller yellow. All right, and basically it's the subclass of the UI view controller. Click on next, create. All right, so it created a file which extends the view controller, right? Go back again. Now I need to associate this yellow one with the new class that we created. All what I do is I type here view controller yellow, right, which is, or I can pick it from the list here, which is the view controller yellow, right? And now when I click on this button, I'd like to dismiss this view controller. How do I do that? Circle, circle, right? And then you click on the close, you drag and drop, and I'll say close clicked, right? And then what I need to do is self.dismiss, all right? And you could see self.dismiss dismisses the view controller that was presented modally by the view controller. Cool. So basically it will dismiss it, and then it asks you the animated, and then the completion block. The completion block happens after the animation is over, okay? So basically I'll say yes, which is true, right? I want it to be animated. And then the completion block, if you press enter, it creates the block for you. So you could do something here after it's completed the animation. So basically the self.dismiss will actually close that view controller. Okay, it will dismiss it. Okay, so now if we run the code again and go back here, so you could see that the app will show first the red view controller, right? When I click on it, it goes to the next one. When I click here, it goes to the yellow one, right? It segued from the red view controller to the yellow view controller, and then when I click on close, it dismisses the yellow one. Make sense? I hope this was useful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.